Hey Josh, thanks for joining me today to have a chat about your experience with Tania Consulting and also just generally about EQWell. So to start with, I wanted to talk a little bit about EQWell and your journey. You're a SIL provider in Perth. To start with, do you want to tell me a little bit more about why you decided to go into the NDIS space?
It shows me, it was very much an uncanny situation where I was asked to come in to sort of save the situation, which was basically continuity of care for a great team that had done wonderful things with a challenging participant that no other provider had been able to make headway with. And that became our niche, and being asked to come into that team and ensure that progress was maintained. That's the entire reason why EQWell exists, for one and a couple of others as well. But it's been pretty magical since then. We've had an incredible culture, an incredible team. That look, I'm a facilitator. That's it. That's all I do. I think that there are incredible people out there that were already doing amazing things. I fell into that team through another opportunity, and then upon going to them with the opportunity and saying, well, hey, do you guys want to do this? Is this what you want? Otherwise, we're sort of all losing jobs and going separate ways. And the team kind of unequivocally came back with a heck yes, and here we are a year later now, as of last week, and well, we've come a tremendous way.
Happy birthday. What are you most proud of achieving at EQWell over the last 12 months?
It was a week and a half that we had to prepare a company and open the doors and start trading. As you know, in this industry, that's not appropriate by any means, because there's so much that goes into it. And we adopted a lot of processes and procedures from this other company that was sadly, going under, and we didn't know if they were adequate, meeting standards, etc., which is obviously where you came in. The thing that keeps me up at night is the things I don't know that I don't know. And having not come from this industry natively myself, that was a huge burden to bear, and we all carried that, the whole team. And I think that we've come to a place now where, well, we've just passed second stage audit, so with flying colours. So it seems, we've now delivered on a standard that we didn't really know a huge amount when we, said, yeah, okay, we'll do this. A week and a half later, we opened EQWell, and a year later, we have set a standard, without even really going to market. No one knows we really exist, and we've kept it that way intentionally. So I think I'm most proud of being behind the 8 ball the whole way throughout that year, always making sure that we're delivering, learning new things, and sort of, I don't think this is an industry that you should be learning on the fly. And yet we did, and we did well without any, thankfully, consequences or detriment to anybody, both EQWell participants and certainly other stakeholders too. So.
And what makes EQWell different from other NDIS providers?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think our backgrounds are also unique at EQWell. They're not necessarily from NDIS, they're not indoctrinated with the same way that disability care has been delivered in the last X amount of decades here in WA. We come from different walks of life, we come from different skill sets, we come from different parts of the world, whilst also still delivering disability care in those parts as well. So, all of this kind of comes together, I think, to make this special sort of the perspectives, the many perspectives that we have, to be able to do what we do and ask the questions that we ask and challenge the status quo of, well, why does it have to be that way? And I think as the other part of that, we use that in order to ask the questions of, and get away from the norm of what disability care was supposed to, or has rather been in the last sort of, decades. And I think that's part of the, perhaps a changing shift in the landscape of disability, that, people coming away from that way of thinking, that modality. And I I think we're spearheading that. We're very much at the forefront of that, challenging the status quo and sort of saying, well, and I think there's an in-depth attitude which is to challenge that and disprove those. Well, this is the way it is because this is the way.
Yeah.
So that's I think those two in combination, that hunger and yearning, and then our strong values, I think, is the other thing that I think there's a lot of people that have wonderful values and are well-intentioned in this industry, but this absolutely non-negotiable internal compliance around our own righteousness and doing the right thing because it's the right thing, not because it's easy, not because we stand to win or whatever, or get ahead. Certainly we take absolutely, we hold ourselves to an incredibly high standard for that, and I think that shows in how we approach everything that we do. Perhaps we're a little bit too perfectionist, but I don't think that can really be something that exists when you're looking after real people, vulnerable people. Certainly if it was my mum, dad, sister, brother, daughter, son, I would want that person to be doing that kind of care, and that, I think, is the approach we take. Every single person at Equal, this isn't coming from me, I'm just the spokesperson, they all feel the same way.
Yeah.
We're united in that approach, and if there's a person that comes to us that wants to partner with us and work with us, with Equal, and they don't share that values, it's a very, very short engagement.
Yeah.
And it's not because of any sort of viciousness or it's just we're just on different journeys, and it's just not a part of what makes Equal great, and it's a handshake and a wish you well, and that's sort of it. So I think culture is probably our biggest thing, really. For me, it's the most prized and important asset that we have. Culture around doing the right thing, culture around self-accountability. I said this to everyone in the last week. It's uncomfortable when you're an adult and you've got to hold someone else accountable, another adult. It's a weird thing, and yet it's pretty normal in workplaces, but not at Equal. Because if you're already not holding yourself accountable, it's probably not a good fit. We're all holding ourselves accountable all the time. It's not that you can't make mistakes. I think that's part of the problem. People don't hold themselves accountable because they don't want to make mistakes. By creating a culture and a workplace where people feel safe and empowered to have a positive impact in the way that they want to, while still living their life and making ends meet and providing for their own sort of goals and dreams. I think that's another thing that really makes us what we are.
Your passion's obvious. It exudes out when you speak about Equal. It's actually a really nice thing to watch.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the name EQWEL. Where does that come from?
Years of branding and marketing. If I'm honest, I have another company that's a branding agency, and my business partner there and I would often talk about having layered. We like the idea of layered brands that mean something, that stand for something, and especially if you're creating something like in this space where values are the most important thing. You're not hiring someone to provide a bed, and a room, providing family life dynamic. So this is really important because we like a layered brand. And a name that a simple name that everybody can engage with. For us, the layers are wonderful. It's EQ, which is emotional intelligence, and it's a well of emotional intelligence, and that's what we are. But it also is another way of saying equal. And although it's not the same spelling, that's how it's pronounced. And certainly for us, no matter what role you're in at Equal, your voice is the same. My role, and I only serve in my role so long as I am fit to do so, and I can continue providing a benefit to Equal in my role. I need to make a lot of decisions, and those decisions come from all of the people at Equal and outside of Equal. I can't make decisions without information, and that's why everybody's voice, everybody that partners, choose to partner with Equal, to work at Equal, stakeholders, participants, we're all equal. We all have dreams. We all have hopes. We We all want a life, we hope for a life, and that's a beautiful thing. It's very human, and it's human to make mistakes, and I think that this is sort of the culture thing, coming back to it. EQWell is just all about bringing that humanity back to workplaces and back to disability care, or not just disability care, just caring for someone else. We are all equal. The entire vision is to try and change the attitude of the nation or at least promote and support, because we all face challenges. Some are more so than others, and it's not up for us to think, okay, well, you should try harder. We don't know how hard those decisions or situations have been, because we simply don't walk in their shoes.
Yeah.
We'll never know. So I think equality for us, bringing things to an even stance where everybody feels that they are like everybody else. There's no person at the top that makes decisions, and you've got to pander to their egos. It's so wrong, especially in this industry. So that's why EQWell was very, very intentional to send that message in a very, very clear way. It also happens to be quite short and catchy.
So what are the biggest challenges for you in being an NDIS provider?
The 6 months have been particularly challenging, but I would say core function is to provide thriving homes with strategically designed family-like dynamics. If we're trying to increase the progress and capacity of those we work with, and to support them to live their best life, this doesn't matter even if it is a participant or if it's a team member of EQWell. You kind of need a supportive environment, and that supportive environment isn't unfortunately just made up of a single provider. It's made up of a lot of other stakeholders. It's about trying to find really good providers that sort of you match. I know our passion is quite high, and we're very, very strongly values-led, but having people, other stakeholders that we can work with, to really want to keep pushing and push the needle on the development of that team, including the participants that we serve. Challenging. When you come back to that, perhaps an indoctrination, that's adopted. You have wonderful people that set out with wonderful intentions in the industry, and because the industry might not be set up in a way to be reactive and to really deliver on outcomes. Lots of bureaucracy and red tape and what have you. I think people can quite easily fall into a trap of learned helplessness. And I'm not talking about, well, certainly participants, of course, but I'm actually talking about the providers and just accepting that's the way it is type mentality, which is something that EQWell passionately rejects. We are strong advocates and champions for change, positive change, and attempting things that might seem a bit grandiose, but they're worthy goals. Our biggest challenge is sort of partnering with the right people that are going to come on that journey. They are. It's just finding that, I think there's a lot of people that are very focused on, their business and their business delivery, and or they might not know, because they might not have that business administration background. A lot of those other core parts that make up a business, a successful business, which this industry relies upon, may not be there. And so they might be frantically trying to deliver on other parts where I can't speak to why that's the case, but that's certainly the challenge that we've found.
So, in regards to how you engage Tania Gomez Consulting to help you with your audit and compliance, we've worked together on quite a lot of things over, it feels like a really long time.
Yeah.
It's only 12 months, and it feels really
like
good.
I've got some badges or something somewhere.
We've worked together on preparing for the last audit that you just went through a week ago, that, stage 1 and stage 2 audit. We also engaged a virtual compliance assistant through Care BPO and myself to prepare for that audit. We did some audit coaching and an internal audit as well. We did some custom document development for you. It's kind of been a lot of things we've done over the past 12 months together.
Yeah.
What was the thing that the decision around hiring a consultant to help you prepare, let's call it for audit, although there's obviously more to it than that. Why did you decide to hire a consultant?
We have a vision of where we want to be. We understand that we have gaps in the knowledge of what we need to do and how we need to get to those outcomes. And for me personally, and certainly within our team, compliance was too much of a grey area, far too much to be comfortable without truly understanding. As you can often read text so many different ways, and someone that has that deeper intuitive understanding, it's so invaluable to have a guardian there in every sense, to rely upon as a safety net, to ask weird questions, to be vulnerable as well, and to say, because there were plenty of times where I asked you questions and I felt ashamed to ask those questions because I felt like I should know. But to have that and have a portal where no one else will help you in this industry, and you will burn, and it will be at your detriment as an individual, your own reputation. Certainly the company is at stake and anyone else involved in the company. But then most importantly, the participants. Because if you build a business in this industry on a house of cards and you don't have the stable foundations, you're going to compromise so many people's success, including vulnerable people. So super easy decision as far as I'm concerned. It's not even a willingness question, it's just a non-negotiable. That was something we couldn't compromise on. We needed the knowledge. Easy.
So you engaged lots of different services to help you, succeed at audit. What do you think was the most helpful thing for you in getting through that audit? What support that you were provided?
When I came to you last week and said, I think I'm going to reschedule, and you said, nah, just go through it. We went through it, and it wasn't easy, but it was still a valuable exercise. And look, we're on the other side of that, and we've passed. You do get a report, and I certainly don't know how to read that report card in comparison to other reports, because that's the only report I've ever seen.
You got a 2 in everything, and so a 2 is the highest you can get. So let's call that an A+.
It felt like it was a bit of an A+, and so having a guide there, even just to say that, to convince me, hey, maybe just give it a shot. Maybe you're not as bad as what you think you are, and because I don't have a pulse on that. I have no idea. I can't compare myself to others in the industry. I don't have a baseline, and so now we've set a baseline. I'm very grateful for that, because now I know where we are, where we need to be, and where we need to maintain. Moving forward as well, to maintain, but constantly now what I can improve on.
Yeah.
And already in the last week, I've improved on certain things and tailored them to make them more functional, in my opinion, to our sort of processes. And that's incredible. Breeding that culture of compliance, not just for the sake of ticking boxes, but for the sake of delivering done work.
You've got through audit, with success, which I actually never doubted that you would. Was there any surprising or unexpected positive outcomes that came through this process for you? So getting through audit's one of them, but is there other things that you think it's positively impacted on you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the whole process is illuminating. It's such an incredible learning process. I said that to the auditors as well. I thank them very much, because it's a process of finding perhaps where you're all good, maybe where you're overachieving, where you can afford to take the foot off the gas there, and then apply resources elsewhere where you might need a little bit more work, or maybe better understanding of deeper practices, or even just putting those practices into place, a bit more experience with the use of them. And that, I think, is great. The whole process I've learned is really just two people, the auditor and certainly myself, speaking two very different languages. We have a name, we have different names for the same thing. We understand the same things. We live the same way, but we're trying to communicate and say, well, what do you call this? Well, I call it this. Well, how do you do that? Well, we do it this way. Oh, we use different words. But the auditor's looking for certain things. And if you're not good at being able to understand kind of what it is that they're asking for, and then being able to translate that into what processes you clearly have, that can be really challenging. I'm very, very lucky that I feel that the experience was incredible. I had auditors that were very engaging, and having not been through an audit process, that kind of exposure at all in my career, that was incredibly illuminating for me. I think, I'm not saying I can't wait for the next audit, but I'm looking forward to being far more prepared because I know what the process is.
Yeah.
And that fear of the unknown was largely why I reached out and sort of said, I don't know if we should do this right now.
Can you share a specific example of how Tania Gomez Consulting helped you to identify and then address any compliance gaps you had?
It's the whole process, Tania. We adopted policies and procedures from a now defunct company, and we had no idea where their compliance was at. We had no idea whether they were doing the right thing or not. Our knowledge around that as employees for that company, we just didn't really know much about anything, to be honest. So being able to fill those gaps, and really, I'd spent quite some time trying to revise and look at those exact policies to see if there were gaps. And of course, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what questions you've got. Actually, I wasn't really sure what to expect from today and these questions, but they're really good. And I feel a little bit. I was thinking, is this really biased? Because you see, we engaged as clients. I remember our first coffee, catch up meeting, and I was like, yeah, look, I need you. I think, I might send me whatever invoice immediately, like I'm going to pay up right now. I need you ASAP. Of course, then I sat on that, all of that help for about 6 months before engaging with it again. And then I remember coming to you at the beginning of January and saying, could we do this?
Let's do it.
Let's rip it off like a Band-Aid. But we became friends. And there's something that I haven't told you at all as a friend or even, as a customer.
I see it as a partnership, by the way.
Yeah, I hate that word, customer, as well.
You're not my customer.
Yeah,
it's a partnership.
yeah.
We partner together to get great outcomes.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've got, in our organisation, we've got our third-party partners, so and your name's on there. But I haven't told you this, but you've become an advisor to me, whether you think, and not just with compliance, just generally speaking. I don't think I've shared that with you at all, and not to give you too much of a big head, but you do deserve it. You do deserve it. Hopefully, your shoulders can support it. You have become an asset, not just to Equal, but to me as a person. Gone through the challenges that we've faced, some really unusual situations, and being able to talk with you on that, and even just explore wonderful, crazy ideas with you about how we can give back to the industry and see what else we can do. It's so exciting, and it's I get so much value from that. I don't think I've ever shared how much value I get from that. So I know that wasn't quite compliance specific related, but to answer that exactly, you delivered on everything. So it's a bit hard to sort of say, well, there's one example. There's many. Pick one.
I think what I try, the mission behind what I do, because I know I seem like I'm passionate about compliance, but actually I'm passionate about solving business problems. And I learned compliance as a necessary evil because, one, I find it easy and I actually like it, but I'm not passionate about compliance. I use compliance as a platform to build a strong foundation to grow a business upon. And compliance and legislation is easy for me, but you can't market, I'm going to help you build a strong business, because people think that's marketing, right? And I'm not marketing. I'm business foundations with a compliance lens. I had a conversation with someone the other day that said, of course you thought compliance, of course you would say compliance is important. And I said, no, look, I don't think compliance is important for compliance sake. I learned compliance as a business manager, a general manager, as a business owner, because it's a huge risk in a business. If you don't do it well, you lose your license, you lose your business.
Absolutely.
So I learned it out of necessity, but now I see the value in it, that any business that is strong is built on a strong foundation, not a house of cards. And compliance is one element of that. But I talk about it being quality, being the next level, which is let's reach for the best we can as a business. And for me, that starts with processes, systems, etc.
I call that governance.
Yeah.
Right? Broadly speaking, that's
Most people don't
governance.
understand governance, though. They think governance is for boards and not for profits.
Governance even on small businesses, but it just happens to start with you as the individual and that's it. But my skill set is business administration. Your skill set is pretty well the same, but in a different way. My skills within business administration are quite different to yours actually, but we come from the same background. And you asked me how I got into this industry, and the business administration has been a tool that I have sharpened, and honed until I finally found the worthy purpose to use it on. And I finally feel like I am where I'm supposed to be to use the tool that I've developed over a career to provide the impact that's worthy of all my efforts. It's worthy of my stress. It's worthy of sleepless nights. It's been a beautiful thing to find. For me as an individual, I feel incredibly grateful. So I can understand and appreciate how you've come from. That's the tool in which I help to deliver the impact that I really want to deliver. And because that's for me too, I'm going to be very good at business administration, that side of it. Still certainly getting better at the compliance side, but
it's a tool and a skill, and you'll get there, right?
Yeah, that's
building that capacity. But it starts with understanding the importance, and now going through that audit experience, now you'll value compliance a little bit more, see it a little bit differently, and over time that becomes the fabric of the organisation. It's just another thing you do by default.
Well, and I think the way that we're trying to change the language on that internally and develop a culture of compliance is by not talking about compliance with NDIS compliance, not at all. We're talking about equal compliance. There's a component of that certainly is NDIS compliance. There's also ethical compliance, there's values compliance, there's obviously HR compliance and fair work compliance as well. And these are what we call external compliance factors that are standards that are placed upon us. Yeah. But we have our own internal standards that we must meet as well. Yeah. And that, if we're trying to deliver a quality service and a quality workplace, then we must strive for better standards, and we must set standards. And some of those are not impressed upon us by external sources. We've got to create them ourselves. So compliance for us is a huge conversation, which is part of the reason why we've engaged a compliance officer. And it's not just for NDIS compliance. It's so broad.
So I just want to touch on your compliance officer. You have an offshore compliance assistant through Care BPO that we placed together. That partnership involves me training the offshore assistant so they understand NDIS. They're already very skilled in quality and audit. Care BPO found them for you. You go through a process with them of selecting that person. And then Karen is your compliance assistant's name. They really picked up the ball and ran did a lot of great work in that audit. How have you found the process of engaging an offshore staff member into that role? And how was the process with both Care BPO and myself?
Oh, incredible. Well, interestingly, I didn't even know Chris headed up Care BPO, and I'd already been introduced to Chris separately when we first started EQWell, actually, and at his other outfit, Sports. And wonderful company there as well. And so when I found that out, it was actually just icing on the cake, to be honest, because he'd already introduced me to Lee, and she's incredible. She's got her skill set, and quite like us, and I think Chris is similarly minded, where he's got his skill sets in business administration as well as Lee, but the impact is still what we're all driving towards. It's like, how do we actually translate what we know we're good at to providing a real impact? And so in terms of the actual process, I think it was such a dream. It was very serendipitous. Like it just all happened to fit together so perfectly. And I've engaged with other BPO models before with much less success. And I think part of that is a disjointedness with the company and the values, and then sort of it's just a job sort of feeling. Whereas Karen, I am so impressed, and I feel so guilty because she came in from day one. 2 weeks later, she had first stage audit. She hit the ground running.
She hit the ground running.
She had no
and she took
time.
ownership over all of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Far more than I should have taken much more ownership and couldn't, and inevitably didn't. And she was such an asset to that process. And likewise, for second stage audit, she's just such a, it cannot be overstated that she's just been, along with yourself, the meaning of success for both audits, the reason for success for both. I think I said this to her about 2 weeks ago. I said, oh look, I think I saw a course and I thought, oh yeah, I think that'll be really good for her to go into. Sort of like an auditing course. And I said, oh hey, I'm sure if you've done anything like this, would you be interested in doing this? And she said, yeah, I'm definitely interested. And I sort of said, I joked around and said, but then you'll be stuck with us for a very long time, you know that. And I've been sort of saying this for a while, and I think she's as much, which is exactly what we want, she's as much equal as any other person at equal.
She's part of the team.
I love Care BPO, but as I've said to Lee as well from Care BPO, Care BPO are just a facilitator. They're a middle person that helps facilitate another staff member, another team member.
Recruitment agency.
They just don't happen to be here, but I've got plans to catch up with them and another person who we've recruited through Care BPO very soon after we brought on Karen. And I hope to meet with them both face to face, if not even to get them here as well. They're such an asset, and I want them to know that they're equally as part of equal as anybody else.
So my last question for you today feels a little bit redundant, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What was the best part of working with me to prepare for your work?
Also, gaining an incredible friend. That's the first thing, obviously. But in a professional sense, being a guide and a voice of reason amongst the panic. I may not show the panic much, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a storm on the inside. And the questions I have come from that place. Sometimes, some of those text messages late at night, and having that support is, like I said, it's just invaluable. And as you rightly said, it's not a 9 to 5, customer, provider type relationship. It's easy to tell it's a partnership. It's easy to tell because phone calls at weird hours, or text messages at weird hours. It doesn't matter. You drop things to make a bit of time to kind of go through things as when things come up. But who does that? You go above and beyond for everyone, not just me. Certainly, it's not just because we're friends. I've seen you do it to everybody. Everybody deserves that. You feel. I get the sense. And I think that's such a rare thing, a beautiful thing, and I'm very, very grateful for you as a friend, and I'm very grateful for you as a partner within this for equal.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to have you as my client as well. It was our birthday, and the highlight for me is meeting amazing people like you. And someone asked me recently why I don't start my own disability business, and it's really clear that was never my calling. My calling is to help as many business owners as I can to run their own amazing businesses. And I don't know if that's more or less profitable, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that my mission is to help people like you live your mission in helping all of those participants, and I have this tiny little part in it, but it makes me feel like I'm using my skills how they should be used, and that's supporting you to use your skills in the same way.
Coincidentally, I feel exactly the same way. That's why I call myself a caretaker, and I can't do the amazing things that the people at Equal do all day long, every day. They're inspiring, and for me, I relate to this because it makes those late nights and the hard work and the effort and stress, it's all very digestible. You're like, yep, no worries, I'll take that. That's all good, because these people are empowered to do incredible things and make a real difference. I might not be on the ground. I might not be directly impacting the quality outcomes for these disadvantaged people, but at least this way I can do what's good for me, or sorry, not what's good, what I know what I'm good at to make a difference, a real difference. So I really relate to that. Yeah. Good for you. You found your calling. That's great.
It's just a shame it's in compliance, right?
Oh man, stress.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to being part of EQWell's journey for a really long time.
Look forward to that as well. Thank you so much.